What is this rivalry like now? You guys had such a huge. Is there any more you want to talk about that one?
No.
This rivalry, you guys. I mean, obviously 70s, 80s, 90s, and now it's being rekindled. What does it mean when the Cowboys and Niners line up?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a huge matchup. I don't know so much of all that, all the previous decades really comes into play for us because, it really is kind of about, what we've done. But, we had a grudge match last year in that first round and came down to the last play and, we got the better of them last time, but we know that, that's something that's probably been on their mind for a while and they're going to want to come out and, bring everything they got. So we're ready for that.
You guys won
with Tim, but he was talking about night before meetings. Everyone gets a little quiet when they're called upon to address the team. Can you just kind of allude to that? What goes down with that?
It's not really. It's not that on like addressing the team. I think maybe he was talking about like Kyle likes to, I don't know, like pick on somebody, and not everybody is willing to speak up in front of the crowd, like and fire back. There are guys that will. Honestly, not too often do we have guys like get in front of the team and address the team. That's pretty rare.
Comparing this year to last year, where this team is at from a physical kind of rest standpoint, had it 3 extra wins this regular season.
Yeah.
And is it nice remembering where you guys were at a level of exhaustion entering that Dallas game versus now?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely more rested, healthier at this point in the season. I mean, there's a million things that point to that. I mean, I think we're only missing 2 starters from, week 1 at this point in the season. We just got an extra 2.5 days on Dallas. Last year, every game was like, we need this win to stay alive. And we just had a little different scenario this year with clinching it with 3 games to go. So very different perspective on that point. But I think it's still at the end of the day, you're still playing to win every single game. You're still preparing the same. So, not too much has changed in that aspect.
When it comes to recovery, Kyle was saying it's a little bit overrated. Pointed to the Bucs last year, how they had a short week and went out there and, the Rams went out there and dominated the Bucs. Do you agree with that sentiment?
There's 2 sides to all of it. Like you can find positives in both sides. I do get what he's saying. Like sometimes there is a benefit to just no rest. We're just right back into the swing of things, getting into the next opponent. But I do think it's good to be fresh out there. So I think it depends what side you want to focus on.
Even though it's a different team, a different year, how much do you go back and look at last year's playoff game to see what worked and what didn't work offensively?
I mean, I think anytime it doesn't even have to be playoffs. It's just whenever you're playing a team again, you're gonna see what you ran against in the previous year and what worked. And but a lot of time it's not even about scheme when you're looking at previous years. It's just looking at personnel, guys that are still on the team, how you attack them, how they reacted, that sort of thing. So I think that's what you look at mostly.
It seems that Jimmy's shoulder injury was kind of an inflection point in that game. You guys were doing whatever you wanted before, not really after. Was that a fair characterization of
There
how
was a
that
couple
went?
things. I mean, Jimmy got dinged up. Bosa was dinged up in that game, and I think people, forget about that because, we had a pretty comfortable lead there, and we let them back in at the end. So, I mean, I think that's the focus of ours is if we do get out to a lead, is keeping that lead.
Did you see the clip? You had a block where you ended up on somebody's back.
Yeah, I think everybody saw the clip. I definitely did.
What happened?
I came around to sift, and I thought I needed to hit Trent's guy. Last second, he tugged him out of the way, and unfortunately, I caught his shoulder.
What did he say afterward?
He didn't say anything in the moment. It was after the game. He was pretty hard on me, so we weren't cool anymore. But we've hugged it out, and we still love each other.
Is that the biggest guy you've ever knocked over?
I think so. Yeah.
What's Levi's been like this year, Kyle?
It's been great, man. It's been a true home field advantage. It's been loud. It's energized us on offense. It's made it hard to communicate for other offenses. And I think this last week was the loudest it's been all season. And it's a testament to the fans because I know it wasn't great weather. I'm sure not everybody wanted to be sitting out in the rain, but they definitely brought the heat.
So if Saturday was that environment, what do you expect this Sunday with no rain and the Cowboys?
Yeah, I think it's going to be even louder.
How much is the history of this rivalry a point of emphasis for you guys, or just like an extra layer of something you're thinking about?
I was just talking about this. Not honestly. I mean, maybe it's part of it, but like none of us were around for that. So the rivalry is really what we've done recently, and we played them last year in the playoffs. So I think that is more of our fuel as opposed to previous decades.
How much do you guys talk about yards after the catch? I mean, that's a big part of your offense.
A ton. We talk about it. We talk about it every single day, probably every offensive meeting. That's really kind of our identity is yards after catch, and taking pride in turning those what may look like a 4-yard gain into a 9-yard gain, or that 6-yard gain into an 11-yard gain. We don't want to be in 2nd and 1. We want to be in 1st and 10, and that's something that we just really stress.
Why do you think you guys are so good at it? Beyond the obvious speed and elusiveness and all that, I mean, what about this team?
I mean, we talk about drop steps all the time, catching the ball, getting in your shadow, turning upfield. We talk about finding 2, splitting 2, never taking a defender head on. You're trying to find edges on people. So that's ingrained in us from day one, and I think it becomes natural after a while.
If that was your identity, then getting McCaffrey only enhanced that, I imagine.
Exactly. I mean, you take a guy who I think already led the league in missed tackles and yards after contact, and you throw him into this environment, and he's just going to thrive.
How much does the blocking downfield feed into that you guys
Say it again?
The blocking downfield, especially from the receiver, like Brandon on that.
It's
how much
incredible
is that?
because when the play is extended, when guys are making people miss, when they're breaking tackles, and you have blockers that are extending the play, if you can get past that first guy, usually there's just one guy left. Well, if he's blocked, that's just going to add to your yardage.
Speaking of the blocking, Ayuk as a whole, what makes him such a good blocker? Not the biggest guy in the world, but seems pretty physical out there and clears some holes.
It's his attitude and his commitment to it. He enjoys doing it. Like, he loves being physical. He's just such a complete guy, and I feel like he takes just as much pride in the routes that he runs that are incredibly crisp as he does, blocking big defensive ends and linebackers at times.
Do you feel that receivers, when they come in here, are a little bit surprised by how harshly, I guess, Kyle challenges them?
Definitely, because I don't think anybody is challenged that way as a receiver anywhere else, especially not in college. So I think it's a little bit of a surprise early on, but I think they all buy into it and they see what a difference it can make for the team. And generally speaking, the guys that make it here, they end up being some of our best blockers. And I think you've seen that with Debo, with Jawan, with Brandon. All those guys are not scared to mix it up in the run game.
When you said that Kyle will go after some people in team meetings or whatever, what's one of the funniest encounters you've had, or at least most recent ones that sticks to mind?
You're putting me on the spot. I'll have to get back to you on it.